Okay, so now we're gonna see a class 2. In this case, one unilateral free and saddle and another saddle area, so a class 2 modification 1. Okay, so now we're gonna start talking about the Fulcrum Line. Okay, so whenever we have one free and saddle or two free and saddles in a class 1, in this case a class 2, we always have a definite fulcrum line. Okay, so from where to where does this fulcrum line happen? So this fulcrum line happens from rest to rest. Okay, so whenever you decide to put a rest from here and a rest here, that would be your fulcrum line. If you decide to put your rest here, that would be your fulcrum line in the same case. If you decide to put it here, then that would be your fulcrum line. So what is the fulcrum line? The fulcrum line is going to tell you how the RPD is going to function when the patient is biting. So in function, in masticatory function. So it's going to do it like this, because this is just mucosa. So the patient bites here and it goes up. See? Okay. So that's your fulcrum line. Now the rule, as I mentioned already, is everything ahead of the fulcrum line, you have two options. Either you just put a rest and a guiding plane, or you choose a clasp. And if you choose a clasp, then it must be either broad wire, the retentive arm, or a combination clasp, or you can go and do a stress breaker. That would be your last resource. Okay? So it all depends on the undercuts, again, the condition of the tooth, aesthetics, interocclusal space, so you have to analyze everything. So, but whenever you just get a case like this and you know certain information, then you can decide what you can do and what works best for each case. So let's review this case. I already designed it. So we're going to see why I put each component in each tooth. So you receive a case, you see a case, and then you have to know that first, in a class 1, a minimum of 2 clasps need to be done. Always to the abutment that is next to the saddle area. Okay? So we have here one saddle area, so we need a clasp here. So minimum is 2 clasps. That was in a class 1. Minimum in a class 2, minimum is 2 clasps. Ideally, if you have 3 teeth, then you want to have 3. That's ideally, if the undercut allows it. Okay? The position of the tooth, the interocclusal space, the condition of the tooth, etc., etc. Okay? So I'm going to show you the same case in 3 different scenarios and slightly changing things. So in this case, I'm telling you, you don't have an undercut, nor in the buccal or in the lingual of the premolar. You have a distobuccal undercut in the molar, and you have a mid-facial undercut of 0.01 in the buccal. So remember, 0.01 inches of undercut is for cast, 0.02 inches is for wrought wire, okay? Which is more flexible, so it needs a deeper undercut. Okay, so you see the case, and you identify the class. You say, okay, it's a class 2, one side, free and saddle area, another one. Okay, class 2 modification 1. Now I have 3 teeth. I would like to have ideally 3 clasps, but I don't have an undercut here, so it is not possible. But what do I have? I can have my guiding plane. Always remember the guiding planes. next to saddle areas. So I can put a guiding plane here, a guiding plane here, and a guiding plane here. So it's gonna the path of insertion of the RPD is gonna be just this. So it's gonna fit there exactly. Good. There and here. Okay, path of insertion. Good. So you can draw your guiding planes. This is the open lattice works. And then you say I cannot put anything here. So we will see that later. Now let's see which clasp we're gonna put here, because our mechanics depends on where our rest will be placed. So I have a distal buckle undercut here and a mid fascia here, and 0.01. So that tells me that I can use a cast. So what are my options? Remember when we just have a free end saddle, RPI, RPA, combination clasp. Okay, last resource would be a stress breaker. Okay, but no. So in this case, it fits perfectly an RPI. So you put your guiding plane, put your mesial rest, come from here, and your I-bar. Okay, an RPI. So we have this, and here we're gonna put a mesial rest, and we're just gonna go with a cast circumferential. So we put a cast circumferential here, the reciprocal arm and the retentive arm, because we have a distal buckle undercut. Again, so now we have to analyze our fulcrum. In this case, we're not putting anything here, but we're gonna analyze there why we're putting rod wire, that I already mentioned it. So this is the fulcrum line. You can just draw it, just visualize it from rest to rest. See, everything ahead of the fulcrum line, I already mentioned the options that you have. Okay, so the other component you have to think of is that whenever you have a saddle area, you need to put indirect retention always, because if you don't have anything here to support this movement, the RPD is just gonna go like this, too much. It's gonna go and it's gonna press the gingiva, okay, and it's gonna damage structures. So remember, the line has to be 90 degrees, and you start analyzing which tooth fits better as an abutment for an indirect retainer or indirect retention. So you put here, then looking, it would be the canine, okay, between the lateral and the canine. So you see the canine is a good abutment. That could work. And then you say, oh, but I have my premolar, so I have a guiding plane here. So I can just extend and put in both my rest in the mesial fossa of the premolar and in all the cingulum of the canine. Okay, now I have this. Good. My RPD is just gonna be there. Okay, stable, perfect. And then you just decide on your major connector. In this case, I chose a strap, palatal strap. Always remember to cross in 90 degrees the midline. Okay, 90 degrees. Always the open lattice works. The saddle areas are connected in touch with this structure. They cannot be like in the air. And then that would be it. Okay, that would be your design. Now what happens if I tell you now you have a buckle undercut here, okay, all the buckle of 0.02, and you have a mid buckle, a mesial buckle of 0.02 also. So you say, okay, and I tell you, you have two options here. You have a distal lingual or distal palatal undercut here of 0.01 and a mesial buckle undercut again of 0.01 there. So you start thinking, which clasps can I use here? Remember, first you have to design your fulcrum. So you have to decide where you're gonna put your rests. So in here, I'm gonna show you this. let's say, which clasp can we use? Which engages in the distal lingual or distal palatal. Always start there. And you can go with a back action. Perfect. Closal. Go there. Always you have your guiding plane. And follows and joins the structure there. Perfect. Now, you notice that we're always putting a mesial rest. Okay? So, what happens if you say, and okay, let's go here. So here then we have a 0.02 undercut. Again, we need a clasp with 0.02 undercut in the mesial buccal. Oh, perfect. So we can use what? A combination clasp because of the undercut. Perfect. It's subtle area. You already know your 4 choices. So how do we design it? Already know we have an occlusal rest, a reciprocal arm as your guiding plane goes there, follows the structure, and from here, from the saddle, from the meshwork, comes the arm, the retentive arm, which is wrought wire. So like that, you can see we have our wrought wire, and we put our back action here, and now we have our fulcrum. We see the line of fulcrum from the rest to the rest. Now you ask, why did you put the rest and the distal here? Because it doesn't matter, it's wrought wire. You can put it in the distal or in the mesial because it's flexible. It's not gonna damage the tooth. That's why. Okay, that's the exception. Nice. And now you have this. So everything ahead of the fulcrum line, wrought wire, or all the options I told you. Okay, so everything that is in the same side can be cast. That's why we're putting a cast, which is a cast back action clasp. So how does the mechanic work? Why did you say you decide this? Because you don't want when the patient bites here, and the RPD is going to go to the palate there with the pressure. You want this retentive arm to disengage and go down. Then don't go up because you have the height of contour. It would lock and it would pull the tooth. Okay, if it would be ahead of the fulcrum line. So I put here the buccal undercut. So to show you another process of thinking, you say, why don't I just go back from the back and engage the mesiobuccal undercut that I have instead of using a back action? Because then we have our fulcrum line goes there, and remember, from rest to rest, everything ahead of the fulcrum line has to be either wrought wire or the other options I mentioned. So this is cast. So what happens here, patient bites down, this arm goes up. And if it's holding the tooth, goes up from here, pulls the tooth kind of vertically, in this case occlusally, and we would put the pressure and we want to pull out the tooth. So we're damaging the tooth. So this is wrong because of the mechanics. That's why we discard this undercut and we go with the distal lingual in the case. And we put this because we know that in our line of fulcrum, the fulcrum line is going to be here in the mesial, and my cast will be after the head, the behind the fulcrum line. So this goes down, and this goes down instead of damaging the tooth. So it goes to the gingiva, but does not go up and try to pull the tooth out. Okay? So that's what I wanted to explain here. And in this case, imagine there is a torus here or something, so you just decide to use an anterior posterior strap. So you already know, always in contact with the mesh work. There you go, and then you have here another undercut. Look, all the buckle with 0.02. So now you can say, okay, ideally I can put 3 clasps. So why not put another rod wire if it's ahead of the fulcrum line? Okay, so again, we put the distal rest, the reciprocal arm, guiding plane again, follows and joins the structure, and from the saddle area comes my retentive arm. There you go, rod wire, because of the undercut. Now in this case, when you analyze after the indirect retention, you already analyze the fulcrum line, the position of your rests, the position of your guiding planes, always guiding planes next to the saddle areas. Then you say, now I need indirect retention because I have a definite fulcrum line. So again, 90 degrees. The lateral is not a good one. Kinda is a good one. And then you say, but I'm also using the premolar already with a cast, so it's already good. There will be like a tooth supporting segment. It's okay. So this would be enough. You wouldn't need to add more. Now, if you want, you can. Like, it's not ideal, but you can, because it won't damage anything. So you can put, imagine you say, no, I want to put anywhere a rest here in the cannon. Well, you can do it. Just put a rest in the cannon. No problem. It's okay. It's gonna work. It's not doing any damage, or it's not detrimental for the design or the patient. But it's not necessary in this case. So you see, you have enough retention. So that's why we say you have to analyze when you have enough retention. Okay. So that's with this case. And then finally, I'm gonna show you the same here. With now I tell you, you have a distal buckle undercut here. So you have 2 options. Either you put nothing there, remember, just guiding plane, and then you put your rests, or you decide to go with a clasp. But remember, again, this will be your fulcrum line, abutment teeth. So everything ahead of the fulcrum line is supposed to be what? Rod wire. So, but you don't have the undercut to put a rod wire. So what do you do in case you decide to do it? I'm just doing this in case you say, no, I want to do it. Okay, you have your fulcrum line. And then you say, I want to put, why don't I put, let's say, one that engages in the distal buckle. Why don't I put my back action? Rest. Guiding plane here. Well, indirect minor connector. Okay, it comes like this. Sorry. It goes like this. And engages there. But in this, I will add here. Okay. There you go. You can use a back action. You say, okay, I'm using a back action, but this is cast. It's not rod wire. But what was one of the options I told you before that you can use ahead of the fulcrum line to compensate? Stress breaker. So long, you're going to put a long minor connector. And you have to express it. You have to put it. You have to say it. You have to mention it. Long minor connector working as a stress breaker. If you don't say this, if you don't put this on your design, it will cause damage to the patient. So if you know how to do this, you won't forget, you will be able to use it. Cast ahead of the fulcrum line. If not, just don't put it. And then just put again, just your guiding plane. And put your rest. Okay, and just like that, you're going safe. No damage. Okay? So that's what I wanted to show you, and here you can finish the design. So those are the principles of how to decide and how many classes to put, where to put them. It's also comes from experience and common sense, when it is good enough retention, when it is going to work, when it isn't going to work. You see? So that would be it for the class 2 in this case.